How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel, and welcome to what will be the first of 3 different Should You Summon videos this week for the craziness that is occurring this weekend. We've got first Anora, then we're going to have the 2x by 15x on Lucius, Boreas and Ares, and then we're having a crazy 15x for 2 different Lord level heroes, Ymeric and Valderon. So we're kicking it off with Anora. I think this is the biggest question I've been asked because, the average player can't really go all in on both of these banners. Some of you may have some divine saves, so you can use your legendary summoning crystals here, but most people need to make a tough decision between the two. So that is what I want to get into and answer here because it is just Anora on the 250 exclusive. It's a limited hero. It's her and Idril. I'll probably just talk about Idril for maybe 30 seconds maximum. The real focus is Anora. And because of that, and because I do think this is a tough call for a lot of people, we are going to do this the good old-fashioned way. So the way I used to do it every single week when I first started this big trend of Should You Summoning that people seem to really like. So we are going to answer the question specifically for all spending groups. Free-to-play, low spender, mid spender, dolphin, and whale, and then also address the question for all player progression types, where you are in the game. That being early game, mid game, late game, and end game. I want to be thorough, and then of course we will do a proper banner breakdown. So what is that? I'm actually going to get in, not do a super deep dive into the kit, but we will break down our kit so everyone understands exactly who this hero is. It is not the simplest kit in the world. I will tell you the short version. If you can get her, you should go get her, but there is a lot of nuance to it. It is a tough call, so let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Alrighty, folks, so to understand Anora and understand the situation we are in this weekend, we have to understand kind of the opportunity cost. By going for Anora, what may you be missing out on? A lot of people will probably miss out on one or the other because we only have so many summons, unless you're some big spender, you've been saving forever, maybe you're a content creator or something like that. Even still, it's gonna be hard for me. It's kind of one or the other for a lot of people, unless you're super lucky. To me, the real opportunity cost, yeah, Ares is good. Yeah, for a lot of accounts, Boreas is awesome. I really think it comes down to Lucius. I think that's the general consideration. Most people, beyond the mid game, anyone that's been playing for more than, let's say, a month or two, this is kind of where it's going to be. Am I going to take my chances for Lucius, which is less of a chance than normal because he's not just on 15x, but also on 2x rate up, so you're twice as likely in general to get legendaries, and then when you hit, you're 15 times more likely it's going to be Lucius, as well as the other two. It's a trade-off, right? Anora is a bird in the hand. Lucius, kind of for most accounts, is going to be the 2 in the bush, right? You can get Anora, assuming you have enough diamonds and summons to hit 250. It is literally a guaranteed limited hero. With Lucius, theoretically, you could summon 10 million times and miss him. It would be unlikely, but I summoned on a 2x by 15x for Cetrum, 800 summons exactly. This was back before Christmas. Actually, the last time Boreas was on rate up, I didn't get a single Cetrum, not one. I got 3 Boreas, which is really cool, but I didn't get a single Cetrum. So that is how this can shake out. So you got to think, do I want to go for Anora? What's going to help my account more? Or do I want to take that sweet gamble for this little GB2, Guild Boss 2, Titanic Ruin Semrog God? And that's what he's going to be. So let's actually start with Lucius, weird enough. Every basic attack landed, he's going to have a 25% chance to launch a pursuit with his crossbow. This is like a special thing he does. It can trigger effects, it can do this, that, and the other. The key thing with getting those pursuits is actually when he's ulting and you trigger a pursuit, the first 4 times that happens during his ultimate, you're going to dispel a buff. If you think to Titanic Runes, if you think to Guild Boss 2, the second phase, the Aegis mode phase, where he keeps putting those terribly powerful Aegis buffs on himself, the big shield buffs that are reducing incoming physical and magic damage, we just can't strip them. But now with Lucius, we can. They've actually buffed this ability. More on that in my guide I'm putting out on Lucius tomorrow, but it's pretty crazy. The first 4 are guaranteed to dispel a buff. If you use these rates, right, 25% chance with a 20-second duration on the ultimate, when you have him at a base 2.0 second attack interval, the average player pretty easily, as long as you're a little advanced in the game, can get that down to a 1.0 second interval. That means he's going to put out 20 hits on average, right? 25% of the time you're putting out 20 hits. That means 5 times he's going to trigger these pursuits. It only needs to happen 4. You could even have him at like 1.2 seconds and you'd probably have a pretty good shot. He's going to ult really frequently because the cost of this is only 800 as well. So even if you're only picking off 2 buffs at a time, it is monumentally game-changing. Now, before we get into specifics and really dive deep into Anora, the other thing you have to understand with Lucius is a lot of really competitive players, especially for Guild Boss 2, might want to bring him all the way to A3. This A3 allows him to have many roles. So right now his role, if you get him A0, is Crazy Buff Dispel. That's for Phase 2, Aegis mode of Titanic Ruins, Guild Boss 2, and then he does DPS. And pretty good DPS, right? There's stuff baked into his kit where he can ignore some defense. I mean, that's really nice. And then even nicer is the Buff Dispel, right? A strictly unique thing that is going to make him an instantaneous GB2 god. So basically, at A0, he's given that. At A3, all of a sudden he has stuns, and they should happen a lot, because during the ultimate, every pursuit will be a stun. Like I just broke down, on average, if you get into a 1.0 second interval, you'd expect 5 pursuits to hit. So that's 5 stuns. You only need to hit 12. That's crazy. Lots of attack down on the boss, and, you know, pushing towards the max stack of 12 if you have another stunner as well. Then he's also landing damage reduction. Right now, the main ways people are getting damage reduction are coming from Volca and from Alistair. Volca, obviously, super free to play. Alistair, super free to play if you were playing back on Christmas, but if you're new, very, very unlikely you have Alistair. Those guys do have minus 30% damage. This means the enemy hitting you, in this case, Semra, is going to deal 30% less damage. 20% is really nice, and now it frees up a spot, because now he's basically doing 3 rolls. Really 4, if you think about it. Big old damage. This is turning to a Lucius guide. Big old damage, big old stuns, big old damage reduction, and the crazy dispel. Most of us won't get him A3, so really just think of big old damage, or at least solid damage. How much damage you'll find out tomorrow in my guide. But for the buff dispel, I mean, that is crazy. So now that we understand Lucius, and I need to say this in case you guys don't know. The rewards for Semra are crazy. So this is a big consideration, right? The rewards are really crazy. Like, if you can start maxing this stuff out, I mean, my sweet God, even at 8K, I'll put up a picture right now. Maku, a big friend of mine, friend of the channel, he got in one chest, he got 5 ancient summons from just clearing this 8K chest on Titanic Ruins Apocalypse 2. So that is the big consideration. Now let's move the focus to the thumbnail, the subject of this video, Anora. I'm sorry, we had to get into Lucius because without understanding him, you can't really understand what you might be missing out on. Actually, let's just do Idril really, really quick. Really good DPS, especially for an epic. She's got this limitless shots. It's unlimited range. She can hit anywhere on the map. When you get her A5, every time she kills someone, she extends the duration of that ultimate by 3 seconds. Amazing passive here with combo shots. As long as she's ulting, if another ally anywhere on the field doesn't ult, she gets this supercharged attack. Very good stuff. Absolute unit for Gear Aid 3. Very nice in Void Rift. Towards the end game, she really falls off a bit, but she's awesome. There you go. We know Idril's good. If you have her anything but A5, this is something to be excited about. Otherwise, you already have her A5. End of story. Anora! What's up? The Silver Seraphim. Apparently, a Seraphim is a kind of angel. Apparently, it's the kind of angel where giant webbed white wings shoot out of your sweet old tushy. All right? So here comes the question. Are we going to push for the tush? Right? That's what we're calling this. Hashtag push for the tush. Actually, just hashtag push for tush. It just sounds better. I think so. Just push for tush. We'll use a 4. Yeah, there we go. So the talent on Anora, this is where it all comes from, right? This is what makes her super unique. She's probably our first out-and-out summons an assistant entity that's just going to hang out and help her do a bunch of stuff, and that is going to be Labor. So this is going to be a monster that comes out, and he inherits the master, in this case Anora, 100% of her attributes, and assists her in attacking enemies in range. Each attack deals 90% AoE damage up to 8 enemies. So it's a really proper AoE. I think if I click on the ult here, we should be able to see it. Yes, there you can see it's this flying dragon. Interesting, since she's like bonded with Emerit, but who's like this Drake she's always paired with. Maybe this is a Drake too, I don't even know. But you can see she summons another dragon. This is going to be Labor, helping her out really, really big. If people understand the lore better than me, definitely let me know. It's going to be big boy AoE damage, right? There is another key piece in the talent. The hero and Labor permanently gain Sanctity. What is Sanctity? They're immune to most debuffs. Amazing. Also immune to buffs. So this is a weird thing with Anora. She has a lot of trouble gaining rage because of this. She can't get like inspiration and these big damage boosts. It can be really tough. On the same token, you can't really put, you know, reductions on her. You can't really put crowd control on her. It's very nice, but certainly it is a trade-off. If you guys actually go over here right now with the events going on in the shop, you'll see Anora's exclusives there, And this is something, if you are going to summon for Anora, I think it is a must pick up. Save everything for it. You can see I haven't touched anything yet. I only have 750 of the premium ones. I will definitely get enough by the end. You're going to want to snag this. Increases her attack by 10%, so that's very nice. You know, attack is absolutely king, god, and savior in this game. And then after Anora casts her ultimate, Labor's AoE damage permanently increases by 5%, stacks up to 3 times, so you're talking about a 15% boost. And then most importantly, the most important thing about this artifact, because she's having, like, she can't really gain outside rage in any other way. Now, if you have this artifact, when Labor kills an enemy, restores 3% rage for Anora. Usually, it's going to be Labor killing the enemy as you learn the rest of her kit. This effect can trigger only 1 time every 5 seconds. Not a ton, but still 3% every 5 seconds. It is significant. I think this is a must pick up if you're going for Anora. Okay, back to her actual kit. You know, we've done the exclusive artifact. We have done the talent. Let's dive a little deeper. Not too deep. We'll save that for a guide, but let's dive a little deeper. So on her magic attack, basic, you can see it deals 90% AoE magic damage up to 5 enemies. This can go up to 100%, and also it can bring, you can see, plus 5% to Labor. It can bring Labor up to 100%. So now she can hit up to 5 enemies. Labor can hit up to 8 enemies. You can see they're attacking in tandem. So she brings a lot of big multi-target and AoE damage between her and her sweet boy Labor over there. Back to the ultimate, we'll get to see Labor again right above my head. Worm Dive. I don't know how to say that. It's 1,000 base rage cost to use this ultimate. It's a manual ultimate. You can get it down to 900 with skill ups. When activated, Labor immediately deals 360% AoE magic damage on up to 10 enemies. Then it increases Labor's damage by 110% during the ultimate, and that lasts for another 20 seconds. So it's one big burst, and then for remaining 20 seconds, Labor has this huge buff upon him where he has an increase in damage. You can see the base increase in the damage is 110%, very high. You can get another 40%, so it can be 150% damage. So all the damage he would already do, it's a 2.5x multiplier. That's absolutely significant. Like I said, most of the damage will be coming from Labor. It pairs really well with the artifact because he's going to get most of the kills, and we're going to get a lot of rage. We want that rage, baby. We want that rage. I'm so sorry. One other thing in the talent we have to talk about is Labor can also stack something called Ancient Spirit. So gaining 1 stack of Ancient Spirit, how does that happen? Well, upon the death of an allied summon, so any other summons on the field, and at some point we're going to have to make a list of what counts as a summon, because a million things can come to mind, right? Something like the Scarecrow kind of thing that Navros summons, without a doubt, that is a summon. Kriya's Crows, I think that's a summon. Elwyn's Wood Elf, that feels like a summon, but then you get little things. Someone was asking about like the solar whatever things that Praetus does, like the sun bomb things. It says Praetus summons those. Are those summons? I don't think so, but you can see there's going to be, it's not clear. We're going to need a list. Maybe I can ask Moonton for that. But when those allied summons die, so Kriya would be a great pairing. You know, she's also cultist. I should mention, Anora is a cultist esotericist mage. But when Kriya, if the crows count, that would be a lot of deaths. It can stack permanently up to 15 times. That's another 15% attack boost post-deployment. You do love to see that. While I am here, one final thing, you know, I've covered it before. She's got pretty high base attack, especially for an AoE at 4855. Not crazy, but it's nice. Everything else really standard. Attack interval is kind of high at 3.5 seconds. Think of something like Comet. Again, that's less of a straight out and out AoE. It's more of like a hybrid between single AoE and burst, but 3.5 is a lot higher than Comet at like 2.6. Boreas is also at 2.6. But you can see fairly standard stuff with quite strong attack. Let's go now to the passives. Calamity's Whisper. When attacking, Labor has a 10% chance, and this can go up to a 20% chance to generate Noxious Breath. When the ultimate is triggered, generates Noxious Breath immediately. Well, what is that? It deals 20% magic damage per second to up to 8 enemies in range. That's significant, right? The fact that it is going to last 6 seconds as opposed to 5, basically it's like a slightly better, unique version of Burn is how you can think of it, because it's a 20% magic damage per second. It's nice. She's got little dots in her kit. I do not see her shining in like Arbiter of Frost, but hey, it's something. It's extra damage. And then we've got Agitation. When on the battlefield, increases the attack of Labor by 10%. This can go up to 15%, and that's not counting the other 15% you might pick up from Ancient Spirit. You see what I'm saying? Labor's going to deal most of the damage. The artifact is key, folks. And then grants damage increase to other allied summons. So another way she's synergizing with other allies on your team that are bringing summons or summoned units. So that's going to be a 10% damage increase. And I do not think that will apply to Labor. I think just the attack boosts Labor, because it says explicitly 2 other allied summons. There'd be no way to test it because Labor would always be summoned, so there's no like control versus the test group. But it's pretty cool. And then, guys, this will be later on that we talk about it, but if you're going to go for this Valderon Ymmerit banner, she has a bond skill with Ymmerit, and if you're lucky enough to scoop him up, this bond skill is pretty special. It really elevates the character that Anora is. So once you have Ymmerit, you permanently unlock this bonus effect. You don't have to bring him in battle with you or anything. Summons Labor Ice instead of Labor. Who is Labor Ice? Well, he's going to inherit 100% of the Master's attributes and assist the Master in attacking enemies in range. Again, the Master is Anora. Deals 15% increased damage to controlled enemies. Very, very nice synergy with her cultist faction membership here. Each attack deals 110% AoE damage up to 8 enemies. So now the base is 110%. So now with the skill ups over here, it's going to go up to 120. So just 20% better, like 1/5 more DPS. And finally, this is where it's really crazy, really key. All the attacks are going to have a 30% chance to inflict Winter's Bite for 3 seconds. Winter's Bite, this is in Ymmerit's kit, but I know it now, so I can tell you 1 stack is 25% slow. You can get 3 stacks, so it's 25, 50, and then it would be 75, but when you get 75%, it's just an all-in-out freeze. I believe the base is a 2-second freeze. Super, super powerful. And then this also is going to synergize brilliantly with Ymmerit's kit. So you'll probably run them together for a lot of stuff. Super, super cool stuff. Rapidly quick, we'll do awakenings because most of you will not get a single awakening because she's a limited hero, myself included. When Noxious Breath is generated, it immediately inflicts Immobilized state on up to 8 enemies. Immobilized is like somewhere between a slow and a stun. Basically, they ain't going to be moving for 1 second. Now we got a 2 plus 300 attack. That puts over 5k. That's pretty dang high. Awaken 3, Labor ignores 15% of magic res, ignoring 50% of the defense you have to deal with, which for magic damage dealers is magic resistance, is huge. A4, 8% penetration, ignoring an additional 8% for Anora and Labor of everything. And then the Awaken 5, enemies on tiles affected by Noxious Breath receive 20% increased damage from both Anora and Labor. That's pretty nutty. None of you are getting A5 Anora unless you're a super whale, in which case you shouldn't be watching this video. Of course you are summoning. What a silky smooth transition into actually getting to the point of this video. Should you summon? So let's start here. Why would you want Anora? What is she going to be good at? It's big boy AoE magic damage, and even though Dahlia had that, it's not with some weird range. It's a totally normal range. Anora's just going to be out there slapping. That being said, it's just AoE magic damage. You know, there's the Noxious Breath element, but unless you get the bond with Ymmerit, she's kind of just a big time DPS. If eventually some kind of summoner synergy arises, which it seems like they're trying to push, so I would keep that in the back of your mind, or maybe even a little closer to the front than the back. But for now, it's just some really nice AoE. Like you can see, this is her range. It's the same as like Comet. She's just going to be slapping big AoE damage, right? If you get Ymmerit, all of a sudden you get the Winter's Bite stuff. You get some crazy crowd control. I think that's very, very exciting. But the base level Anora that most of us will have, it's just big AoE damage. That being said, she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous. So that alone, there's no world I would not summon for her. She's the best looking hero in the game. Absolutely fight me in the comments. I don't care. I don't. And then also, they're trying to push some kind of summoner meta. They want different kinds of teams. They want unique comps. They want unique squad construction, right? They want to push different kind of heroes. Anora could make Navros a lot more relevant. You know, people that do have these straight up summons. So I think, could you see there being, if you ask me, this guy over here, I'm looking at him, this guy's saying, what? Yeah, you want to know if I think there's going to be a Summoner Codex sometime soon? Yes, I do. I do think that. I do. I also think there might be just more and more content that's putting out more and more debuffs. I mean, it's one specific thing, but right now in the alpha stage already for the anniversary event, we're getting frozen left and right. I think with Anora, it's complete and utter easy mode, right? Getting through this kind of stuff, getting through these challenges. I actually knocked this out last night, so definitely go catch the VOD. But for this, right, there's a ton of debuffs on us in forms of those big Winter's Bite and then freezes. So, you know, having more content, you know, the way you make content more difficult and more complex is more buffing, more debuffing, more crowd control. She's going to be immune to a lot of that. And that's going to be really powerful, I think, as the game develops. So if you're keeping your eye on the future, that's kind of why you might want her. Basically, if you're progressing, you probably want her for big boy magic DPS, AoE magic damage. That will come. And then if you're like me or someone towards the end, you're just thinking, wow, she's pretty unique. I could really see her shining. The two things that make her unique, she's got this summoning stuff, this summoning synergy, and then these weird immunities. Part of that's a negative. She can't be buffed. It's really annoying. Part of that's a big positive because she can't really be debuffed. All right, so let's start at the end as we answer these questions. If you are a dolphin or a whale, almost certainly you should summon, like literally like 99.9%. For whales, 100%. You can afford to go for this and then easily go hamtastic on this stuff as well. For Dolphins, the only way I would say you want to skip Anora is if you're feeling dangerous and you want to head over here and try to pick up 4 copies of Lucius so you can get that A3. Otherwise, get Anora and you probably still have several hundred summons over here to try to grab 1 or 2 Lucius copies. Yeah. Speaking of Lucius, I keep talking about him and not the other guys on the banner. I don't think anyone should be targeting Ares. I think he's a cool hero, but from what I've seen so far, nothing that would be like, ooh, let me completely narrow in on that. I will say for progression stuff, Boreas is still an absolute S+ monster. Overall, I'd rate him an S. You can check out my ratings on the tier list on fastidious.gg. Updates happening all the time now, but I really do think Lucius is the star. So that really handles the end. And the 2 things I said for Dolphins and Whales, respectively, those are without any regard to progression. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. I don't see anyone going for multiple copies unless you're a Kraken level player. For Anora, unless somehow you're just supremely confident you're going to pick up the Merit 2, I think most people will just stick with an A0. Maybe big spenders will go for an A1, but then you're going to put your attention over here. I think it is simple for those 2 spending groups. So let's talk about the other spending groups. I'm going to talk about free to play, then low spender, then mid spender. Free to play, I think it's pretty simple. It comes strictly down to progression. If you are early game or mid game, I think you go for Anora. If you are late game or end game, I think you save for the 2x by 15x. So why do I say that? Well, if you're progressing, you just want good heroes. You probably don't have tons of sources of AoE magic DPS. It is a rare thing in this game, far less rare than when I started playing. That's a story for another day. I'm happy they've added a lot more options. She will help you progress like crazy, and she is guaranteed. I feel like very often that is lost on people. People are saying Anora or Lucius. Yes, you have a better shot than normal to get Lucius, but many people might skip Anora, and let me know if this is you in the future. Come back to the video, pull 600 times, you probably won't get Lucius. Like, it's going to come out to like a 50-50. You really don't know. You pull 250 on Anora, you know you are getting Anora at 250, unless you got her even faster, so it was even easier for you. For free to play, I think that is such a key consideration and something you really need to take to heart, right? For late and end game, I think you almost certainly have a Virna or a Comet or a Boreas or Dahlia now or something along those lines. You don't really need her. It would be strictly speculative, right? The way I'm going for her, which I think is a very fair speculation. That's why I'm doing that. However, I'm not essentially free to play. I don't spend money on this game, but nothing about this over here looks free to play, right? So if you're free to play, you really need to value every single summon you have, and I think you go for the safe bet. And then if you're late in end game, you go for the thing that's going to straight up help you progress and get those huge rewards from Guild Boss 2. Now for low spender, it's almost exactly the same thing, unless you're the kind of low spender who's like, hey, it's the anniversary. Maybe this month I'm a Dolphin, or maybe this month I'm more like a mid spender. I'm going to put, 50, 100 bucks in the game. But if you're the kind of person spending just 20 bucks, it's really going to follow those progression lines much more than your wallet, because that's not really going to be enough to allow you to snag both, unless you're a very diligent spender, in which case maybe you don't even need my advice. Finally, mid spender, why did I save it for last? By far the hardest. I'm talking about people that are spending like 75 to 150 bucks a month. You're nearly there at the point where you can just go all in for both, but not exactly. Really size up your account. Really do it. What kind of progress are you making in Guild Boss 2? Regardless, Lucius will probably break it open, but maybe you have Praetus and you don't even need to think about that, right? That's something to assess. For Anora, yeah, she's fun, but unless you're very deep, very endgame, and you want to start speculating, and you're already feeling good on Guild Boss 2, I think as a mid spender, you need to straight up look at your AoE magic DPS. Do I have Comet? Do I have Boreas? Do I have Demi? Do I have Virna? If there are a bunch of no's in there, probably it's Anora time. I think that is how you make the assessment. Guys, I know the video got kind of long. I actually think it turned out really well. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you made it to the end of the comments, please go vote on the Rising War CC award that I created. The prizes are crazy. We're honoring a lot of amazing content creators. It's all up to you guys. Let's see who gets the votes. I hope you enjoyed this. This is going to be crazy to edit, so absolutely pray for me. Share with your mother. I've been Fastidious, and I'll see you real soon.
Fastidious.